Hey guys, it's your humble host, or Kayla if you prefer. So I'm back with another video. I wanted to share a few thoughts of mine as well as give somewhat of an explanation, or rather, hopefully portray more understanding or give you guys some more understanding about how I function, why I function the way I do. So I saw a little bit of the stream last night. I even clipped it. I don't agree. I don't agree with the stance that's now being taken. The I Stand with Vic movement has gone well beyond Vic, and that is very obvious. At this point, it's not even about Vic, unless Ty Beard comes on and gives updates, or Rikita gives some sort of update that has to do with the actual case. Otherwise than that, it's just a total shit fest. So honestly, I don't care who's welcome back in, who's not. This isn't a clique. This isn't a group. It's gotten to the point. I've been around enough issues. I've been around enough controversies to kind of see the stepping stones of how this is going to play out. And as I've seen with the skeptic community, the IBS community, the situation I was in, people are building their towers, so to speak, way too high. And it's at that point to where you keep building up and up and up and up that you forget your foundation. You forget what you built upon, how things got started. Yeah, you probably made a few mistakes here and there when it comes to the basics of the foundation, and that happens. People grow and change when they learn and learn to adapt and adjust. But from what I'm seeing, people don't want to do that. The tower does not match the foundation anymore. The tower has gone well over the foundation, and if anything, has put too much stress or weight on the foundation itself. So, I've mentioned this before to a few other people, so hopefully this gives you some understanding as to why I operate the way I do. Yeah, I come across a bit aggressive, and there's a reason for it. So, and I've referenced this issue multiple times, because so much happened, and it was such a hard pill to swallow. It was a very hard lesson to learn, because not only did I see people get destroyed that didn't need to be, or to an extent didn't deserve to be, not only did I see the person who I thought was completely innocent or was just at the end of a bad line, not only turn around and be two-faced, but use the levity and the attention that they had and pointing that at the person that was helping them, or rather set of people that were helping them. So pretty much, as for those of you who are not aware, there was a situation that broke out 2 years ago. No, 2 to 3 years ago. It was the Daddy 05 situation. And for those of you who have been around my channel since then, you guys know exactly where this is going. So just to give a little synopsis or gist of it, there was a YouTube channel, I think they're now off YouTube permanently, hopefully, that a set of parents was doing a bunch of prank videos, and two kids in particular that they had in their custody were the victims of these horrible, horrible pranks. Just freaking awful. I saw two YouTubers I follow do videos or responses, and granted I was at work, so I kind of skimmed through, but when I really sat down and watched, I'm going like, what am I watching? So I did my reaction video, boom, I meet the mom, it kind of goes from there. I get other big people involved, like, yeah, here's the mom, can you guys help, please, you guys' voices are much bigger than mine, and it just kind of grew and took off from there. And we had other people involved. One person in particular was Joy Sparkle BS. So, and like I said, I've referenced this situation multiple times because it's still sticks with me as a scar, because it blows my mind how much shit freaking happened and how it was never really resolved. People just kind of fled. People purged, nuked everything, and took off running. So pretty much what happened is she entered, the lawyer that was involved in that case reached out, actually wanted to connect with her, and so I put them in touch or whatnot. And me and Joy had an acquaintanceship at that time, and we were talking, and so everything was good. Everything was good, and things started to get a little bit dicey because another YouTuber that was helping Base Mama started to catfight with Joy. A lot of you saw that, so they started to kind of knock heads, and I was kind of sitting in the middle, but I'm like, can't y'all just behave? Can't y'all just kind of like chill out, get along, talk? Can we do this, please? So that was like a resounding no. Base didn't really know how to chill. Anyway, so what had happened was we get a gag order on the custody case, right? So we get told, everybody shut up. Nobody talk about it because there was a PR firm involved, like legit. And so we had to go on lockdown, shut your face, go back to your content, don't do anything. Well, turns out that because Joy was helping, she was legitimately helping, she got a bit vocal, too vocal for people's liking, but she helped keep the story alive. So what had happened was she ended up with some particular details of the case that I had not known about, that a few others, including Base, we did not know about, and there started to be some double talk, meaning we got told one thing about Joy, and then Joy would say something completely different. And what was really confusing is because there was evidence of the double talk on both sides, we started to both sides started to drop text messages and emails going, yeah, no, I got told this, she got told that. And I didn't catch on at the time, and I really want you guys to pay attention to this, is you missed the forest for the trees. And I had to really look up what that really meant, meaning I was so involved in the details, so involved in the emotional setting, because yeah, it did trigger me. I'm a victim of, or rather a survivor of abuse, more particularly sexual abuse. But I was very emotional at the time because it was awful what was going on. And so I was so caught up in the details. I was so caught up with helping the mom. What can I do? How can I boost this? How can we do the GoFundMe? Blah, 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 blah. That I didn't really realize what was going on at the time. So when Dory started to talk about details of the case, I went and I asked Rose and I asked Space. And so it's just like, well, I just got told this, and I told her don't make a video. So, and I'm not trying to bring about stuff, this is just an explanation. So it took off from there, because from what I had tunnel vision at the time, I had a set of blinders on, and so in my mind, at that point in time, it was best for me to separate from Joy, and that's what I did. I put out a statement, I did all that, and that's just when everything went boom. Now, granted, Joy had made her own trouble, and she got into her own controversies and whatnot, and that was her business or her thing. But it started a year-long fight, back and forth, with either side wanting to really give, or I guess you could say really talk, or rather the attempts of talking were just kind of thrown out the window, because everybody was on edge. So it just kept getting worse and worse and worse, and anytime that me and Joy got into a call, a stream, any type of social media room, would be Discord, Google Hangouts, it was World War III. Now, this situation started to meld in with another community. For those of you who are familiar with Internet Blood Sports, Tonka Saw, the Kumite, or whatnot, So, because Tonka, that's actually how I met Tonka Saw. For those of you guys who know what happened with that guy, he's another example of building your tower way too tall. But he built it off of a fraudulent image, and yeah. So, anyway, after the fighting or whatnot, the kumite kind of blossomed, and I had a few streams with Joy in regards to the kumite, and one in particular that still sticks with me. It's no longer available. We had Geek Thulu, because me and Geek Thulu were knocking heads at the time. He's another user. And then Base, me, Geek Thulu, along with Tonkasaw, all had like this kumite to where we're gonna hash it out, and it pretty much turned into a shit fest, screaming at each other, and it resulted in Base and Joy pretty much shouting at each other. But there was a calm portion of that to where I was asked a very particular question. And it was, Chambers, if Joy sat down, if you and Joy sat down and talked, and she had evidence of what she was saying, would you be willing to look at it? I'm like, yeah, I would. And Base had said no. So I was hoping after that particular kumite, everything would calm down. It didn't. It got worse. It escalated. And there was just so much shit flinging back and forth. And Rose's behavior at that point had started to get kind of weird. The GoFundMe was frozen. Donations had stopped because of all the squabbling. I had people getting pissed at me anytime I tried to extend the olive branch to Joy. And then I would have other people get pissed at me every time I would tell Joy to shut up and go away. Because that was my goal at the time, considering what I'd known at the time. So what also made matters worse is I had another little situation of my own where I had somebody reach out to me claiming to be a domestic abuse counselor for women. And she was a pathological liar, and it got to the point where I called down to the police station where she lived because we were talking pretty much every day after she reached out to me. She offered me a vehicle, and at first I thought it was bogus, ran it by my husband, and then she was really convincing. Again, I was not in the right headspace because of this case. I was so wrapped up in the details that I never stood back and looked at the whole picture, which was a really grave mistake on my part. So this lady sunk her teeth into me for 6 months. 6 months. Was it October? I think it was 2018, or no, it was 2017. I think it's been like a year now or so, or maybe a little over, to where I finally started to dig around. I spoke to some people, and I cut the cord. And then because I did a call-out video, and it's to my friend where the comments are disabled. That's the first time I've ever done that, and I think it's rare. It's going to be a rare thing. But anyway, so she cut and run. And so I went back to the DO5 stuff or whatnot because it was still going on. Me and Joy were still knocking heads. And it got to one point to where I entered a Discord call, and this is when I used to be in Geek Lileaves server, and I came into a room of just squabbling, screaming, squabbling. There were the fighting, Takasaw, Geek Thulu, Joy. There was quite a few people there, and so they were like chastising this guy named Moral Virus, and he's a whole nother thing, and not my business. I was not involved, so I don't know. I only know some stuff here and there. Again, at this point, I don't care. But anyway, they were kind of just, Moral Virus was in there, I guess, started some shit, and so finally he goes away and the call calms. It gets a little bit quiet, and Joy starts, I don't know who started talking to who, but me and Joy end up talking. And again, that question comes up from the kumite, because I think it was either Tonkasaw Geek Thulu brought it up, goes, hey, do you remember that kumite you had with Base, Geek Thulu, yourself, and Tonka? And I'm like, yeah, I do. And they're like, do you remember the question we asked you? And I'm like, remind me again, because a bunch of crap had happened. And they're like, do you remember that if we asked you if you'd be willing to sit down with Joy and look at the evidence she had? Are you still willing to do that? I'm like, yeah, I am. So me and Joy had a private Discord call. We had a few other people in there. And we started to go through everything, and she showed me her text messages involving Rose, and I showed her mine, and come to find out, we had both been played big time. There was evidence of the dead would talk, and because I was in a clear headspace, I was able to see what had happened. I was able to sit down and go, oh my god, the year fighting, it didn't need to happen. When I look back, it didn't need to freaking happen. But again, both of us were taken advantage of. We were both helping. I was the GoFundMe campaign manager, and Joy was more vocal about the case than I was. I didn't really have the energy like she did to do a whole bunch of videos. Everybody didn't agree with the way that she did it, but again, she kept the story alive when me, Rose, Base, and a few others had to sit down and shut up because we were very much associated with the intimate part of the case, so I couldn't say anything, and Joy and even another user, Liz Reptile, kept the story alive at that time. So, but anyway, when me and Joy sat down, and doing all the details, I felt myself get really pissed. Because, as I said, Rose started to act kind of weird on me the more me and Joy fought. Her answers weren't clear, stuff wasn't adding up, so when we went back, me and Joy went back and looked at all the text messages, the numbers, because I had a bunch of emails and things like that, so we went back and crunched a bunch of stuff and realized stuff hadn't added up. Money wasn't accounted for. I got to listen to some recorded calls that Joy had reached out to some other people, or they reached out to her that had helped Rose, and I learned some things that I wish I had learned over a year ago at the time it was happening. And I look back to this day, I sat down and listened to what the other side had to say, I could have saved not only myself a lot of heartache, but I could have saved Joy and the other people that were willing to sit down and listen as well, a lot of heartache as well. I mean, her friends had to sit and watch as B freaking Base and the others freaking drug Joy through the mud. It was nasty. It was ugly. That is a scar that's never going to leave my channel. It's never going to leave my name. Like, ever. And you don't see the DO5 videos because I took them all down at the request. Children were starting school, but even if I was allowed to put them back up, I really wanted it. Granted, it was, my channel got boosted because I was an intimate part of the case, and no, I didn't make any money. All those videos were demonetized. But I still look back and it's just like, it was like the nastiest thing that ever happened. And there's still people who talk about the DO5 case. Kiwi Farms was referencing it when stuff with short rounds broke out when I was fighting with Kiwi Farms the other day, or the past 2 days. So not everybody's gonna agree, not everybody's gonna like what had happened, but when me and Joy finally sat down on the case and the details, granted, now I was the one that kind of rushed the process because I wanted it out there. I was so pissed I wanted it out there. And I had work that weekend, so I didn't want to do it on the weekend. I wanted to do it on the night I had off, or the day I had off. So once we got everything together, Joy and the people that were helping her scrammed to get this Google Doc into play, which is actually still available, by the way. And we had another kumite, and because I had heard whispers, because Tonka kept referring to Rose as a liar, how he hated her, and which really kind of confused me. It's like, well, you were there helping a little bit, so I don't understand what. And then another user, and this is nothing to him, I like him, but another user that had interviewed me and had reached out to Rose as well, asking what the hell was going on with all the fighting, what Sinatra says. Sinatra started to bump heads with me, and I didn't get it at the time, and it's just like, what the crap? But it had something to do with Joy. So for a while, me and Sinatra knocked heads. And then afterwards, when me and Joy had came together and everything got exposed, because we had a 7-hour-long kumite going over everything, to where we kind of dragged Ikemon Rose, like, get in here. It created more of a mess, but the truth was out there. In a way, Joy got exonerated, but it caused a whole bunch of fighting. But in the end, the people who were responsible for it all fled. Instead of owning up to it, they all freaking booked and fled. I couldn't get anybody to really talk about it, and when I was digging around for evidence, literally group chats were disappearing as I was digging for stuff. But going back to the Sinatra Says thing, after the kumite and after some of the fighting had died down, after the truth came out, I went back to him. We're going, so you knew? He goes, yeah, I've known for a while, and I was pissed at you. Because he goes, I thought you knew. I'm going, I didn't know jack shit about what was going on. Because again, I didn't take the time to step back and look at what everyone was saying and compare notes. So I asked I asked for his communications with her, and I got a copy of that. And then another YouTube user who I really respect, Suit Yourself. Suit Yourself knew what was really going on too. But Joy had told, and what really ticks me off, and this is not ticked off at Joy, is she told everybody to shut up. She knew what was really going on, and she told everybody to shut up. Because at that point in time, I was not willing to listen. Others were not willing to listen, so she just kind of sat and took it, which was never really okay. Because had that been me, I would have dropped everything at that point. I just like, you know what? Fuck you, I'm done. But Joy held on to it for a full year. And I couldn't apologize enough, because what really made it worse is you had certain people going to the boards, personal people of Joy, going to the boards, and it was just, it got to a point where Joy was never able to bounce back. Now, again, I'm not saying she's wholly innocent. She had her own controversies, her own problems, and her own situations. But again, because I didn't sit down and listen to both sides and compare notes and step back, I was so focused on the trees, focused on what can we do to get these kids back, and oh my God, Joy, just go away. I didn't take a step back and realize the full picture, or rather see the full forest. So, and I mean, Joy's gone from the internet now. Like I said, she was never able to bounce back. I am the only one that's really still here, the only really YouTuber that was intimately involved in that. I'm still here. And that's not a brag, it just, I was able to bounce back. I was able to just kind of stick my feet in the mud, or pretty much place my cement, going, no, I know what's going on now. Y'all can either freaking help deal with this, or y'all can fuck off, because this was garbage what had happened. So this is why I am so aggressive when it comes to finding out both sides of the story, finding out both sides of what happened and comparing it, because then you get to see the real picture. You get to see who's telling the truth, who's not, whether both sides of garbage, or rather if it's just one side or the other. So the clip I put up, as I said before, my previous videos with the I Stand With Vic stuff, and I understand people are being shitbags. I understand people hate each other right now. I get it. People hated Joy. People hated really anybody who kind of associated with her. There was Twitter groups that freaking fought every damn day. Freaking nutters. All of them crazy. Because I would go through and I would look. I wouldn't respond, but I would look around going, oh my god, this is freaking insane. So, like I said, people hated Joy though. People weren't willing to sit down and listen. Now, granted, she didn't always respond the best, but after what I saw, like with all the evidence, how much she paid, how much she did, for the mom, for Rose. The stress and the other stuff that was going on with her channel, with her, and her, because this really added to it as well, and I apologize for this too. Her family was getting involved with the lolcat boards and not defending her. They were coming out against her. So that to me was really fucking disgusting. And it just, and I even apologized to her for that. I should have never even touched that. But, you know, again, when I did sit down and listen, it was already too late. The damage was already done. Because had I known sooner, and taken the time to actually look at the bigger picture, I think things would have been different. We would have come together, confronted Rose, going, what are you doing? This is bullshit. We probably, had we done it right now, granted the exposure of everything, again, I rushed, so it wasn't done properly, but it was put out there. And yes, there's a right way to doing things too, so I do admit that I do fuck up with my presentation or the way that I go about things sometimes, but the road is paved with good intentions, but usually leads you to hell. So if you don't do things properly, yeah, you can make them more of a mess. I do agree. So, so with that, because I didn't take the time to actually sit down and look, I ended up destroying somebody. Well, helping to destroy somebody. And the end result of that, because I did put out just because she was so angry and hurt from what had happened, and wanted to get back the money that she gave. I didn't agree with your action, so I stayed backed away, but I would defend her. And I kind of helped tear down somebody that really, in the end, for that circumstance, that situation that broken out, didn't deserve to be. Now, as for the other things, that's none of my business. I've told people I don't care. I did reach out during the past about some things here and there, but again, for the most part, I don't care anymore. There was so much stuff flying around on the boards, and it got convoluted, so I still don't care. But when it comes to the I Stand the clip that I put up, now I see where people stand. As I said, the tower that has been built does not match the foundation, or rather the materials that we use to build the foundation are not the same materials that's used to be built the tower. And granted, again, I have been around many situations, many different communities, groups of people to where I saw got built up for maybe like a year or so, or even a few years, and then bit by bit by bit by bit, foundational pieces were knocked out due to people in the situation devolving, and eventually that tower came crashing down. So I am careful not to build my tower too high. I know for the most part who I am and where I stand with stuff. I don't always do things properly, but yeah, I am very careful with the way, for the most part, yeah, because I know people were bringing up the eFlow TIS, and I've already covered that. Not all information was available, and then it suddenly appeared within a month, and March, April, and so I went back and I corrected what I did, but again, that was a little bit different, but the damage was done there. And that situation, again, what happened with there is the situation is being portrayed in two different lights, and so that's caused fighting, but my video sure as shit did not help. So, So that is a little bit different because I was looking for info, could not find it, and I went off with what I was found and what was available at the time. So that is a little bit different. But at this point, I don't care who hates who. I don't care who is considered credible or not, because I have been backing off and I've been just kind of sitting and observing, and there is shitheads on both sides of this. And as I said, it's gone well beyond Vic. Somebody said it, I forgot who. Now we have the anime gate or Weeb Wars mixing with the comic gate stuff, and people are wanting to tear down others because they hate him regardless of what the other individual does. And I am not willing to do that. I have never been willing to do that. Ever. I fuck up. I go after people when I find stuff and when they've done bullshit, and if it's even my business to do so. But I'm not willing to tear down others because others freaking hate them. It's disgusting. It really freaking is. I'm not part of the groupthink. I'm not part of the hive mind. I'm not a part of any of that. I entered the situation pretty much on my own. A very upset friend brought me some stuff and going, hey, look at this. Can you help? And so I started to help, and I started to dig further, and people started to bring me stuff. So that was it. I stepped in because people were claiming to be victims and survivors when in reality they weren't. There was no evidence for it in all these claims, and so I stepped in to help a friend. Met some people, but I'm still going to continue to stick to my guns and my principles. I don't care who you people hate. I really don't. I don't agree with what's going on, what these people are doing, but I sure as shit don't agree with what you guys are doing either. Because if you knock out too many bricks of your foundation, your towers are going to come down too. No one is exempt from that. Nobody. And that's why I try to be real careful, because I know better. This is all temporary. I've seen channels just disappear like that. Channels not come back. People suddenly get wiped out online and not be able to come back for whatever reason, either because the platform themselves said, no, get out of here, or something else happened related to the platform or what the person did. So I am not willing to do that. This isn't my bread and butter. Yes, it'd be nice to make money off the channel. Now, granted, I haven't made a freaking dime off this entire situation because, number one, the origination, if that's even a word, of this movement started with a man being falsely accused of rape, being a sexual predator, sexual misconduct, and I have certain rules of content that I do not monetize regardless. So, and I even made a promise to the Rangers that I would not monetize the situation. So that is two reasons I have not made any money. Am I upset? No. That's just an example of how I run things. But again, I am not going to be part of the bullshit going on. As I put on Twitter, I choose who I answer to, which is very few people. I come and go at my own will. I rise, I fall, through it all, I remain. I'm going to stick to my guns, regardless if people agree or not, and if you don't like it, there's the door. I am just Chambers. I don't claim to be anything outside of what I show. So, again, I am willing to sit down and listen to both sides. I don't give a flying fart in space who's not. That's not how I run. That's not how I operate. You don't like it, there's the door. I don't care. And if people unsubscribe or whatnot, then for me stating those principles, you're pretty much the poison that probably needs to get out of here anyway. So, and that's nothing to my audience. People who have been around me for quite a few years and know how I operate, know that I'm a bit cranky. I can be an ass. But the crowd is fickle, my friends. Very fickle, and they go with the tide. I go where the evidence goes. So, regardless of what side, I've always been that way. Well, for the most part, I have, or I've learned better to be that way. Because even after that DO5 situation, I continued to talk with people, look at both sides, and like, yeah, no, you need to approach this from a skeptical stance, look at everything, make your decision from there. And that's what I've told my viewers. I just, don't be sheep. I'm not here to lead you in any sort of way. You decide for yourselves. Look at everything. Decide for yourselves how things are, come to your own revelations and conclusions. Do not let anybody sway you. Look at stuff for yourself, because if you just go with the tide that comes in and out, you're going to find yourself in a whole lot of shit and trouble. So, hopefully that brings you some understanding as to where I stand and where I am. My name doesn't belong to anybody. My name belongs to me. My channel, when this situation goes away, I'm still going to be Chambers of My Heart. I'm still going to do my own thing. I'm not attached to any one community. I'm pretty much a floater. So I have my own skills, and I've told people I'm not really much of an entertainer, but I do art and things like that. But I'm my own person on YouTube. I am my own, even with my YouTube would you go away, I am still my own person. I am still Chambers of My Heart. I am still me. So take that for what you will, but hopefully you guys have a bit more understanding as to why I operate the way I do. And once again, advise, do not build your towers too high, because if you knock out enough foundational pieces, they will crumble and they will fall and you will be left in ruins. That's all.